Hey everyone, Cassius here, welcoming you back to the Shakespeare Minute. Today on the Villains Countdown, we have villain number 6, Angelo, from Measure for Measure. Angelo is the highest ranked villain from any comedy. Of course, Measure for Measure can also be considered a problem play, but it does have its comic elements and a roughly happy ending. So how does someone from a comedy get this high on the list? Well, Angelo's depravity is something that not only is modern and very, very compelling to us, but he's not just a modern fictional villain, he's a modern real-life villain. He is a deeply religious, fundamentalist kind of man who believes that sexual indiscretion should be criminalized, and that is the law in Vienna. So as soon as the Duke tells him, I'm leaving for my vacation and you are going to be Duke in my place, he takes this opportunity to be the hardline religious fascist that he truly is. Now, the Duke who left and put Angelo in charge intended for a bit stricter governing of the sex crimes, which he has let go. He figures putting somebody else in charge of that could help right the ship a little bit. But Angelo, as his example, decides to sentence a young man who impregnated his fiancée to death. Now, of course, everyone in town is going, why don't they just get married? They want to get married. They should get married. But Angelo does not want to let this kind of sexual liberty go. When Claudio, the condemned man's sister, Isabel, goes to him to plead for leniency, he sees her, a novice nun, and completely loses his mind.
What's this? Is this her fault or mine? The tempter or the tempted? Who sins most? Not she, nor doth she tempt, but it is I, that, lying by the violet in the sun, do as the carrion does, not the flower, corrupt with virtuous season.
What he proposes to her the next time they meet is that if she sleeps with him, then he'll let her brother go. That level of hypocrisy certainly is something that we recognize today in lots of political leaders who would try and legislate sexual morality. We see that it's very hard to live by those precepts, whether you want to or not. And Angelo seems to be someone who did want to. Everyone knows him as this just and upright man, and he seems to be confused by what's happening to him, as if it is happening to him for the first time. And I think we can take his word that he is feeling this way for the first time. However, there is a complete lack of sense that his hypocrisy can get him into trouble. The minute he's threatened with the loss of his reputation by everyone realizing what he's done or learning about it, he says, well, I have such a good reputation, it doesn't matter. I can lie. I can compound what I've done by openly lying about it and using my holier-than-thou reputation and using my upright and just and holy reputation to squash any sort of outcry against me. It's a very dim view of power and authority, certainly, and his vicious Old Testament interpretation of the rules seems to just make it all the worse. He's someone who is willing to go there. He stares into his conscience and just throws it out the window, and that makes him absolutely terrifying. And when Isabella agrees to do it, or at least seems to agree, you'd think, okay, so he sucks. He's going to, take this sexual favor, and he's going to give her brother's life back. But then, this is after he was supposed to have received his payment. This is the message that the provost of the prison where Claudio is being kept gets the next day.
What news? I told you, Lord Angelo, belike thinking me remiss in mine office, awakens me with this unwonted putting on, methinks strangely, for he hath not used it before. Pray you, let's hear. Whatsoever you may hear to the contrary, let Claudio be executed by 4 of the clock, and in the afternoon, foreigner deed.
he's too afraid of being found out having traded this favor that he has to kill Claudio anyway. And this is the final nail in the coffin. If all of his evil had not been intercepted by the various good guys in this play, he would have affected so much horror and damage and slander against his entire belief system, the state, and everything in it, that he would definitely rank with any of the tragic villains that we're about to get into in the next few days. But of course, it is preempted, thankfully, and none of the harm that he intends actually happens. This is a dark and gruesome play about nasty, petty people, pimps and whores, and yet Angelo, the pious, virtuous Angelo, ends up coming off by far the worst of this whole bunch. He attempts to rape a nun. He tells her that he's going to free her brother, and instead he orders for his head. This guy needs so much help. And at the end, all he can do when his crimes are revealed, which is exactly what he thought was impossible due to his reputation, he folds like a cheap suit. It is glorious to see. Not even he can excuse what he's done. He gets it, he always got it, and he chose to do it anyway. His crimes: attempted rape, attempted execution/murder, and lying and hypocrisy that would make pretty much any of these other villains blush. Till tomorrow, I am Cassius. Think of the world.
Why does my blood thus muster to my heart, making it both unable for itself and dispossessing all my other parts of necessary fitness? How now, fair maid?
I come to know your pleasure.
That you might know it would much better please me than to land what 'tis.